20 seconds and get send my head up for digital. Okay, you good?
Good. Okay.
Let's begin. Questions for Coach?
Hey, Coach. They put time back on the clock after the free throw. Is that something you've ever seen before, where it's the play before the play that they put clock back on?
I haven't, no.
What was the explanation they gave you?
That they went back, and here's the kind of the way I saw it, and, right or wrong or otherwise, I don't really care. We won the game, but, I saw Jerome Tang down there saying that they needed to look at the clock, and, it was explained to him that the clock was right. So, obviously when Sam made the first one with 0.6, we wanted to get it to 0.3 or under, so told him to miss it, and it changed the strategy for sure. If there was time over a second on the clock, we would have had him make it. That prevents, a Christian Leitner shot to send the game to overtime as opposed to losing the game. So, I'll talk to Terry Oglesby about it and, just see what the right call is. But, learning moment for everybody in that situation to, make sure you get it right heading in there, because it did absolutely change the strategy of those free throws.
You talked a lot about not getting too high, too low after such an emotional week with some pretty wild victories. I guess, how have you seen a team respond over the next few days? I know, like in the video, the locker room, you're talking about right away, Winthrop, and just the challenges they present. How has the shift from the emotions of last week gone to preparing for a game that you don't want to overlook?
Yeah, this has been a team that has prepared well pretty much every time that we've taken the floor, and it's no exception going into this one. I thought we had a good day. Yesterday was more mental. There was a lot of guys that had high loads on their bodies with the back-to-back, and we had the off day. We actually stayed over, so we didn't get back at 3 or 4 in the morning. Drove back yesterday, and 2 days ago with our off day, and then yesterday was more of a mental prep. We had a long film session. There's still a lot of things we need to get better at, and we had a good film session on those things, and then try to carry some of those things over to the floor, and did very little live on Sunday. And then today we got after it. We got back to getting up and down. Pretty typical day before the game, especially when you play a later 7:30 tip game to get them going and competing. And you're 100% right, Robin. It was 100% no fluke that team had a lead under a minute to go against Arkansas. In fact, they should have won it. They had a 5-point lead with about 1:20 left, and Arkansas made a couple really good plays down the stretch to win that game. But this is a team that's, the scary thing is just the experience and the age. 9 seniors that all play. A lot of them have played high level. Their point guard Rozier played in this building a couple years ago, had 16 points, and I'm telling you this, he's not going to have any fear coming into this environment. So, this is a game, if it's overlooked, which it won't be, it could get ugly because of the way that they shoot the ball. I kind of explained it this way to our team. I think we're a pretty good shooting team. We're averaging just over 11 threes at 36%. This team averages over 11 threes at 38%. And, they really share it. They spray it. They're very well coached. They're very disciplined. There's no doubt in my mind this is a team that's going to be in the NCAA tournament at the end of the year and have a chance to advance. So, for us, it's a good opportunity to play a really good team, a disciplined team, and see how we carry over from the success that we had last week.
With what Braden showed you these first 6 games, is that about in line with your expectations and what you saw from him in that year behind the scenes?
Yeah, Braden had an unbelievable year of development coming in here, and that really was the plan when he came in as a 17-year-old that should have been a senior in high school a year ago. And I know I've talked about this. We had numerous conversations as a staff to potentially strip his red shirt, especially when we were going through that tough stretch in December and January. And, then we won 5 in a row, and the decision was made to, get him through and keep that extra year. So I'm not surprised at what he can do, because I saw the confidence that the kid has and the swagger that he plays with. And, again, we need a guy out there that doesn't have fear when he plays. And you see how he rises up and takes 3 without any hesitation. I loved his attack to the basket. We were 24 for 28 at the rim in that game against Kansas State. In the game before against Oklahoma or New Mexico, we were 17 for 28. So we did a good job of taking what the defense gave us, and I really liked how we attacked the rim when our shots weren't falling at the rate that we had been shooting the ball. When you shoot 25% from 3, the question with us, I know everybody is, can you win a game when our threes aren't falling? You know, do you live and die by the three? And we found a way to win by attacking the basket. You know, I would have loved to see us make free throws at a higher rate to put the game away. But again, you don't convert from three, you don't shoot well at the free throw line, and you find a way to win. And that's what good teams do. And, you know, I thought, you know, we lost Bashir on numerous occasions. We watched all of them. We watched all the threes that he hit. We watched all 15 threes that Winthrop hit against Arkansas. And just our awareness needs to be better in that regard. But I thought we had some good defensive possessions at the end of the game, showing our hands, you know, making a winning play, diving on the floor, and, you know, making the big play at the end. So, yeah, finding a way to win when the ball's not going in the basket, that's a huge step for this team, and I think a confidence builder as well.
Rich, talking about finishing at the rim, Sam had 3 or 4 layups that were contested that he did a really good job finishing. NBC posted a photo about a decade ago of y'all celebrating, I think, at Iowa State when you guys were there. So
Yeah.
can you talk about his performances, being there and watching him perform well?
Yeah, that's, you know, I've had a lot of really good memories in that building. And, you know, we cut down the nets twice in the Big 12 tournament, winning back-to-back championships in 2014 and 2015. And, you know, not only Sam, but Charlie was up on that ladder as well, cutting down the nets. What was it, 10 and 11 years ago, I guess is when it was. So, you know, for Sam to perform like that in that building and to hit the game-winning free throw, I know was really cool for him, and it was great for our family. You know, my father-in-law passed away a couple weeks ago, and, you know, my mother-in-law was able to be there at that game, and I know how special it is, you know, to see, you know, for the family, because, you know, her dad was there celebrating with us 10, 11 years ago. So, you know, pretty cool moment for, you know, for the family, for the McGee side of the family especially. And, yeah, for Sam specifically, I know it meant a lot.
You mentioned the back-to-back. How did Rinks just hold up after that, and then how's Leo progressing?
Yeah, Rink's doing well. And, you know, I took him out, I think about 12, whatever it was, 45 to go. I said, hey, I'm going to get you under the media. And we had a couple good possessions, and he got up and ran to the scorer's table. I said, well, let's get you another possession here to try to save the legs. But he didn't want to come out. And, you know, we got him a little bit of rest. We were able to extend that an extra minute or two. So, you know, anytime we can do that with Rink, obviously that's important. And, you know, he's continuing to build and get himself in the type of shape that he needs to be in. But, yeah, I loved how he handled the back-to-back, because we were concerned going into this stretch when we looked at it and we had it on the calendar of how's Rink going to handle back-to-backs. But he handled it great back on the practice floor today with no restrictions. So, yeah, he's been great. And Leo did some non-contact stuff today. You know, kind of right in line with what we had as far as the plan is in getting him back out there. And if everything responds well, we'll try to get him some contact, but he will not play tomorrow.
You mentioned, you know, finding ways to win. How do you, from year to year, I guess, like, change the way you coach when you know you have a team that can handle in-game adversity and be able to handle those moments?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing that I took from these two games. I keep wanting to say the weekend. Didn't it feel like a weekend? You know, the Thursday-Friday game. But, you know, for us, how are you going to handle adversity? And first thing, I thought we handled it well against Oklahoma. And then got that thing up to 20 against a what I think is a really good, talented New Mexico team, very disciplined team, knowing that they would go on a run at some point. And then, you know, we found a way to sustain it and built that lead back up, I think, all the way back up to 15. And then Kansas State, you have, again, a double-digit lead, a 15-point lead. They come back, take a lead, I think up to 3. You know, Jamarcus has the intentional foul. You know, that could have gone sour, could have gone south at that point, but it didn't. Our guys found a way to rally, and I never saw any head hanging in the huddles. And, you know, that's what you want to learn about your team. You can put them in those situations in practice, but you truly don't know until it hits you that first time, you know, when the lights are on. So I thought our guys handled it beautifully, and it's going to have to continue. We'll hit it tomorrow at some point with the way that these guys shoot the ball, the way they rebound the ball. They're tenacious, and, you know, we have to continue to handle it well. And I'm confident that this group will.
Fred, how's your team been impacted by the 6-0 start in terms of their
I confidence, I think it's been good for us. I don't think that there's any overinflated, you know, sense of where we are. It's, you know, we talked about it, you know, at the Pentagon, that was a home game for us. You need to win that one. You know, we had a great, last time we played Kansas State at the T-Mobile Center, it was 90% purple, 10% red. This was probably 55-45. It was unbelievable, the fan support that we had down there. And we're going to need another great home environment tomorrow against this really good Winthrop team. So, you know, for us, yeah, these guys, I don't see anybody beating their chest. I don't see, big heads, and we're certainly doing our part to not allow it to happen. But it's, listen, it's a senior group. You guys that watch this, whatever it's called, the cinematic recap, you see Rink out there being a leader in the huddles. You see Sam talking, on the bench before coaches even get in there. And that's a great sign for your team when you have that player, players leading it. So, it's just the veteran group that's been through a lot of these battles is helping us in this situation, but we can't get comfortable. That's the biggest thing that we're talking about. You cannot get complacent. You can't get comfortable. You got to keep your foot in the gas.
At the rate your guards are rebounding, especially Sam and Price, how do you think you've been able to tap into that?
Well, we really challenged our guys, and, Rink talks to them. I think he talked about it in the press conference the other night. He's going to do his job by locking up and being in a battle, but our guards have to rebound down. And, they've done a solid job of that so far with their rebound rate. We challenged Price. His numbers had to go up. Jamarcus, his numbers still need to go up. Sam's doing a good job. Braden Frager, is doing a good job. He missed one block out, but then the next one he went up and just swallowed it with two hands. We're going up with one hand too much still. We watched every one of those in the film session on Sunday or whatever it was, Monday. So, just got to continue to try to win the 50-50 battle, be the more physical team. When you do that, you're going to have a chance.
You had that pretty play where Jamarcus hit Rink for basically a 2-for-1 there with 35 seconds left. Do you see this team understanding those in-game situations really well, like what you want out of them in those type of tense moments, I guess?
Yeah, they have been good at that and understanding, when we have 2-for-1 opportunities or when we need to hold the ball and let the time come off to get the last shot of the half. Again, we go through those and talk about them in practice. We try to go through situations all the time now that we're playing live, games every other day, back-to-backs. You can't do it as much, but we did a lot of that early in the season that pretty much covered every situation that you can have. Even the last play with a second or whatever it was, 0.9 left on the clock, to be able to go out there and defend it without fouling, that was important, and have Rink contest the pass on the full court. These are things that you go over and just, for when they present themselves. And, they're coming pretty much every game to have the timeout, have to execute a play, which we got an okay shot, but a good job by Sam going and getting the rebound at the end of the game. So, yeah, you cover all those and hope you execute when you get the opportunity.
Free throw shooting, how it was kind of left things a little dicey there towards the end. I guess what's been your evaluation of just the job you've done at the free throw line, and is it too early to have a opinion on how that's gone thus far?
Our free throw, we haven't done a good enough job of converting them, and our free throw defense sucks. I think we're 361st in the country in teams' percentage free throw. I think they're shooting 90-some% against us. So that shows us we can't foul. We can't put it in the ref's hands. We can't take it to chance, and put other teams on the line. And we did that. Oklahoma, they were in the bonus with 10 minutes. We'd been really good. I think we were fourth in the country in foul rate going into that game, and we haven't been as good since. So, just, again, it's a concentration thing. You got to find a way. We work on them, I promise you. We spend time every day shooting our free throws. We just got to get out there and knock them down. And again, with the shooters on this team, I'm confident that it'll turn.
Back to that comment you made about the previous time you played Kansas State, it was like 90-10, and now it's more like 50-50 this past week. Why the change?
Well, I know a lot of people, the excitement of that game at the Pentagon, that a lot of the same people that were there came to the tournament last week, and not only the ones that were there Thursday, but we probably doubled our crowd in that game, that late game on Friday, the 8:30 game. So just to I think there is some excitement. That's one benefit of having the record where it is right now. Is I think there's excitement and the fans passionate about our program right now, and we have to continue with that. Whatever happens, if we have a slip up, but hopefully we keep this thing going. And continue to rally the fans. They play a huge part in our success. There's no doubt in my mind that Oklahoma game was won because of our fans. Having the support behind us in that last game. Seeing the excitement when our guys are hoisting up that trophy. Those are fun moments to share with your fan base.
Just a broader college basketball question. You guys obviously just had your MTE, and there's a lot of them this week across the country. A lot of coaches are talking just with the new era that they're not really financially good anymore, I guess. How do you view that going into future years and stuff, just planning those out and what actually works, I guess?
Yeah, we're constantly looking for ways where we can help with what you're talking about, Justin, of playing neutral site games where you get a little bit of a boost for for your program from a financial standpoint. We need it, and we're going to continue to hunt and look for opportunities. Pentagon's been great with that. We'll not ready to announce for next year, but we're looking at a couple situations where we can certainly add and help when it comes to roster construction. So yes, it's the era that we're in. These teams playing in Las Vegas, they have a hell of an advantage with what they're getting and what they're able to add, for their rosters. So we're always looking at ways to be creative with it, and we'll certainly continue to do that.
Coach?
All right, thanks, guys.